can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Here's important new information from the Diabetes Solution Center for you, a family member, or a loved one suffering with diabetes. If you have lost your provider, or if you need a provider for diabetic supplies, you may qualify to receive your diabetic testing supplies now with little or no out-of-pocket cost, regardless of your age. All you need is Medicare or private insurance to be potentially eligible. Call the Diabetes Solution Center right now for details. Just takes a couple of minutes. Our friendly, knowledgeable agents will give you free, no-obligation information, handle all the insurance paperwork, and make sure your supplies are delivered directly to your door for free.
Call U.S. Medical Supply 24 hours a day. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. 800-597-9323. Call right now. 800-597-9323.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
To be wild. Good evening and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Texas Wild Adventures from the Water to the Campfire. Tonight we have a special guest in the studio, Brian Bayne of Bayne Properties in the Brazos Outdoor Center. Mr. Brian, eventually all things merge into one and a river runs through it. Tell us a little bit about what you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Well, we have a campground on the river, river concession, and we've been doing it about 7 years. And we rent kayaks, canoes, tubes, and have a few RV sites as well.
If that isn't one of my all-time favorite activities, I don't know what it is. Kayaking and canoeing and tubing the river. I mean, there's just something about letting go of everything. I mean, every now and then you get to a point in your life where enough is enough, and you need to put all of that aside and just concentrate on getting down the river. Tell me about that. Tell me about what it's like being the purveyor of a kayak business.
Well, it's pretty rewarding watching the smiles on their faces. We've got a 5 mile that when the water provides, we put tubes in up there, tubers in up there, and they paddle back. It's about a 3-hour float back to us.
That's a long float.
Yeah, it's pretty rewarding though, watching them get back.
I remember when I used to do a lot of kayaking on the San Marcos River, my favorite thing to do was to start downstream because you didn't have to bother with a shuttle that way. Yeah. If you started downstream, you end up where your vehicle is anyway, and you can do it as many times as you want. Whereas if you're on a tube, you're at the mercy of not only the person driving the shuttle, but also the river itself, because the tube doesn't go upriver.
Well, that's why we put you in upriver and you get out back where we took you from.
Right. But I remember when I started out downriver in a kayak, you could start up and in there and still get to see the whole river as many times as you want.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah. Are you talking about leaving and paddling upriver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was always my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. If the currents can provide you, under 400 or so, you can get upriver pretty easy.
Right. But if the wind's blowing, I mean, you're basically a sail and it's pointless.
At the mercy of,
going upriver is pretty pointless. I remember one trip in particular where I started upriver instead of like I'm talking about starting downriver. We started upriver, but the wind was blowing so hard the opposite direction that we just sat in one place in the middle of the river and we didn't go anywhere.
That can happen.
It sucked. And the kayak that I was on was about as hydrodynamic as a combat boat. So I literally went nowhere.
Yeah, canoes as well. You're up above.
So what inspired you to own and operate a campground?
Well, I was actually looking to invest some money, and looking for another duplex.
A way to turn some money into some more money.
Yeah, and I saw a property that I'd seen when I was younger. Had floated the river and saw that property and never forgot it. So wound up seeing it for sale.
You spend the whole time imagining what it could be, turning it into what it is now?
I knew what I wanted to do with it right away. I wanted a campground, maybe and like a convenience, like a general store kind of
Surf,
thing.
stay, grow, which is they don't
Yeah.
call it that anymore, but I always call it that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what I wanted it to be, and didn't think of getting into tubing and all that. But
I remember what that property looked like years and years and years ago from when I was a kid, and it didn't. It wasn't friendly.
yeah, no, it was all overgrown.
Yeah.
I think the last time anyone had habited it was in '72 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We found out.
It didn't it was access to the river, but it didn't have easy access.
No,
it was
not at all.
It was a chore to get down there.
Yeah, poison ivy, all the vines, the trees. You can see that some of the trees still show remnants of the vines that have overgrown and took it over, and
The
just
thorns
pulled
and all that.
Yeah, it pulled the trees down in some weird shapes. But yeah, we've cleaned it all up now, and we've got 9 RV sites on it. So
Right on. One of the things that my dad taught me when I was a kid about growing up on the river and being near the river was that you could find telltale signs of Native American activity in the trees. Have you seen anything like that on your property?
I've had guests bring me items that like arrowheads and things like that.
Found on your property?
Well, not on the property, but near it, in the river and stuff.
Tell me about some of that.
Yeah. Well, there's been a couple arrowheads, found a few arrowheads. We believe there might be dinosaur claws that have been found. 2 kids have found them. Dinosaur Valley authenticated one of them, I think, said that it was in fact a dinosaur claw, but we've yet to verify it for sure.
That's right, because your property is right down the road from Dinosaur Valley, isn't it?
About 7 miles. Yeah.
Have you found any tracks in your stretch of the river?
I believe in 16 when I bought the property, I found a track. There's actually 3 of them that I'm aware of that I think are tracked. Again, we haven't had them verified.
But you know where they're at. They're easy to get to.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's
2 of them are on the property, and one of them's in the river.
Actually, on your property,
Yeah.
dinosaur tracks.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
What do you know? What kind of dinosaur? Or could you describe the track for me?
It's a lot like the big 3-toe, 4-toe that's with the heel. If you count the back part,
Right. Like the big popular one that.
Yeah,
in
there's
the
one of them
River?
down in the river, and then there look like bear claw ones. 2 of those on the property.
Bear claws.
Yeah, they look like bear claw kind of prints.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and one's in a rock. They're both in rocks that are on the property.
One question that I like to ask anybody that I bring on the program that's associated with the river in any way: cryptids. What do you know about the mythical creatures on the river? Have you seen anything? Any evidence like Black Panthers or Bigfoot?
No, nothing like that. But I've had reports of a white deer being seen on the property. There are deer and stuff, turkey, hog. We've got a neighbor's pig that comes around, hangs out over our place once in a while. It's becoming quite popular.
Just regular old Borno hog,
Yeah,
special.
Yeah,
just some bacon, huh?
Yep. Her name's Maple.
Yeah. Maple.
Yeah.
That's great.
I didn't know it at the time, so I named her Bacon. So we've kind of added them together.
Maple bacon.
Yeah.
Hey, I like maple bacon.
Yeah.
It happens to be a favorite of mine.
All right. Huh?
So where does the deer come from? Like, does he just kind of meander through the property, or do you see him in the riverbed, or what?
There's prints in the riverbed. They come up the bank and they hop over a fence line that we have.
Right on. Okay. So no Bigfoot, no
no
Black
Bigfoot,
Panther,
not yet.
What about mountain lions?
No mountain lions. Bobcat, turkey.
What do you think of the existence of a Black Panther in Texas? Do you think it's true?
I don't
Texas
know.
Parks and Wildlife hard line says they do not exist. If they do exist, it's not a panther; it's a jaguarundi.
Yeah,
and the last jaguarundi that was found in Texas was 1986.
Yeah.
So is it a melanistic jaguarundi or is it an actual Black Panther?
There's
nobody knows because they've not actually ever caught one.
Right.
I mean, there's been some pictures of some cats that look entirely too large to be a house cat, but that's what TPWD comes back and says, "Oh, that's just a house cat." Yeah.
Right.
Well, because there's nothing in the picture to scale the cat against. Sometimes the tail's a dead giveaway for house cat versus panther, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think it's possible.
Well, they ask me, the people ask me when they come camp, like what should we be afraid of, or what should we look out for, or is there anything that we should know about, and like, or what might we see?
Mhm.
And I said, well, I'm thinking anything, and I tell them anything from a giraffe or whatever, because
No matter what you see, let me know.
Yeah, there's a wildlife place right down the road, and I don't know how they keep any of that in. So
Right.
there's no telling what
could
you might
escape,
wake
couldn't
up
they?
to.
There's a story I like to tell often about these deer that we heard about when we were down in Port O'Connor last year, but I never saw any of them. I think it's a joke that they're playing on tourists, because at one point, one person in town told me, yeah, the bartender hit the same deer 3 different times. So I don't know. It might be a joke, but I never saw any of them.
Yeah.
But that's how they wound up down there, was they escaped from a wild preserve and began to proliferate. But what about birds? Tell me about the eagles that you see down there.
Yeah, there's been reports of eagles on a couple different stretches of
Like
our
bald eagles,
Yeah,
actual
bald
bald
eagles.
eagles.
Yeah. Hawks, different
When I
cranes
was
and stuff.
when I was a kid, we had heard rumors about sightings of bald eagles along the Brazos River, but we never actually saw one. But now that they're making such a huge comeback, they've been spotted all over Texas, from White Rock Lake, the Brazos River, even Grapevine Lake has a nesting population.
Yeah.
That blows my mind, because
Yeah,
I
it's
even
great.
as an adult, I've only ever seen one in the wild, and it was when my Uncle David almost hit it on the highway in Colorado. It was flying off from a carcass that was eaten on the side of the highway, and
Wow.
man, he almost plastered that whole thing on the front of his Explorer. Luckily, he didn't. He would have
Yeah.
probably gotten deep trouble for that, but I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the unique features or attractions that you have at your campground that sets you apart from everybody else.
Maybe our various shuttle runs.
Various shuttle runs?
Yeah,
Because
depending
you'll
on the
have
water
several,
flow.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not just kayaking and tubing and canoeing that you shuttle either, is it?
Right. No.
Tell me about some of the other shuttling services
do
that I know you offer.
Yeah, we do some shuttling out to Rattlesnake Ballroom and to the hotels.
Tell me about
and
the
local
Rattlesnake
shuttle.
Ballroom.
That's a bar down in Walnut Springs.
Yeah.
Great owners down there, Laura Bush and them.
A lot of history in that area too.
Yeah. But it's a great place to go down and hang out. Usually when it rains and stuff, a lot of people call us and have us transport them to and from the bars to the hotels and stuff like that.
So you run an anti-DWI shuttle service that takes people where they want to go in town without the risk of them getting pulled over or
Sure.
In trouble for driving while intoxicated, or
Correct.
even having a wreck.
Correct. And to
That's better
Cleburne,
better than Uber or Lyft.
You bet.
Because you're doing it with a specific purpose to prevent that, and I admire that.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we do Cleburne. We've transported to Cleburne and Granbury as well.
And
local
it's
areas,
not
Walnut
just,
Springs.
not necessarily just bars either.
Right.
Like you might have some handicapped people that need a ride, or
You
you
bet.
might, people that might not otherwise have a vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's better than Uber or Lyft, because you're doing it with your town in mind. You are literally supporting your community.
Sure.
And that's something that not a lot of places do. And this is not even through your business that you do this. This is because Brian is who Brian is. Brian does this because he wants to.
Right.
So thank you for the
Yeah, you
community
bet.
outlook like that. That's a big deal, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Tell me about some of the challenges you face in maintaining and starting, growing, managing a campground.
Well, employment probably is one of the things, but it's just an all around joy, really. I enjoy it. It's meeting the people,
You meet people from all different walks of life, don't you?
Yeah.
Different classes of people, different groups.
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Well, just I guess shuttling and stuff. I get to meet a lot of different people. Just going to and from the different places, meeting them. I don't know. It's just a lot of good fun. A large range of people.
Do you find a lot of snakes on your property?
We did when we cleared it the first time. I think we found like 9 copperheads, but
copperheads?
Mostly copperheads. There's been a few garden, yellow belly, a couple things like that, but it's mostly been those few copperheads that we found the first cleanup we did the first year or so.
Right on.
It's been a long time since we've seen one now.
Okay, so outside of the campground, who is Brian Bayne and what do you do?
Well, I don't know. I was raised on a farm,
Where at? What
outside of Owensville, Missouri, of all places, and went to school in St. Louis, Missouri.
It's a far cry from Texas, isn't it?
Yeah. And until I was like 7, 8 years old, and then I moved around North Dakota, Pittsburgh, back to North Dakota where I graduated, and then I joined the Army.
What'd you do in the Army?
12 Bravo combat engineer, National Guard.
I remember you telling me about that the last time we were hanging out down there at the campground.
Yeah, and I did 18 months, but I wound up getting on at Vought Aircraft and did some aerospace for about 18 years. And about 10 years into that, I got into some real estate, which has got me into finding this property.
Where you wound up being a campground owner.
Yeah. And I saw that actually when I was 22 years old. I saw this property and I thought to myself, wow, that someone ought to do something with it, because I had just paid the canoe company like $20 to put me in the river, and there was like 30, 40 cars up under the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And
back then, this entire area where your campground is now was something completely different. I remember looking across that old trestle bridge when I was a kid, and I remember the house that was there.
Yeah.
And I remember the backyard that led down. It had a little hill that led down to the water. And I remember people. You say the house that was there was different than the one that I remember. The one I remember was where the bridge is now.
Yeah, that's the lady's house that owned that campground before.
Right.
The neighbor's house next door to me, we found a little slab under the dirt there. Yeah. And it has the old shower platforms from the Hearst showers. Apparently.
No kidding.
From what my neighbors told me, yeah.
Right on.
So
the house that I remember it was a little yellow frame house that was there where the bridge is.
Where the new bridge is now. Yep. Yeah.
And the place that you have was inside, set next door to that one. And I remember what you were saying. It was a nasty looking piece. It was rough.
I just remember that blue shutter with the green, the window next to it. And there was a green vine as big as my calf growing out of it.
Goodness.
And that was back then in '84.
Right.
So
I was only a year old then.
You were really in '84?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was born in '83.
Yeah. So, and I was 20-ish, and it's 2016 came around when I saw it on the market, and I was looking for another duplex.
And you were like, finally.
Yeah. Well, I saw that blue shutter, and if she'd have taken pictures of woods, I'd have flipped right past it.
Right.
But I wound up seeing that blue
Something
shutter.
You remembered.
And it was exactly how much I needed to invest. So I paid for it. It was like 13 days we were camping on it. And we started clearing it, my girlfriend and I at that point, and we started clearing it, and I think July 4th we had it fenced off and dozed for the second time. And the trees of 9 piles I think we had pushed it in for the second time after burning it all down as far as we could, and we pushed it in a second time and started on fire, and it was July 4th that first year, 2016, and we swung the gates open. We're camping out there selling $10 carloads to camp. And you could burn all the firewood you wanted.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So
the firewood at the time was provided by the property, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was all right there.
Yeah, it's all right there.
Pick of it.
Some was still burning actually, but and that's how it all started. We started selling campsites for $10 a carload and
never looked back.
Yeah.
Why would you?
Right. Well, it did okay. It's doing all right, but yeah, it's good fun. So.
Tell me how many times the river has jumped up out of the bank, out of the riverbed, and caught you off guard. Like, how many times have you seen the river? Well, the Brazos River at one time, believe it or not, during a flood, was 6 miles wide. You know that?
No.
The Brazos River was the bane of engineers all over Texas for a long time. They had to tame that monster if society depended on it. The society of the people that lived on the banks of that river depended on taming that monster. It was wild.
Yeah.
It was the wildest river in Texas.
I found a picture.
Untamable.
Yeah, I found a picture on the property, and it was all the way up above the road going over the Green Bridge.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never seen it that high, but I can imagine it.
Yeah, I was told stories of it being up that high, but it's only come up to that second bank. There's 3 times in the first 4 years.
There's a book named "Goodbye to a River" by
John
a gentleman
Graves.
named John Graves,
Yes,
who's the scenic waterway out off 20 was named after John Graves. It has become required reading throughout Texas colleges, Texas history in general. John Graves is synonymous with Sam Houston, and He tells a story in that book of kayaking that river, well, canoeing that river, and it was the last trip he could make on that river before the man came along and tamed it the way it did. They had 5 dams that were planned to go in. There was, of course, Possum Kingdom, Granbury, Whitney, and they scratched on 2 of them, didn't they? I don't remember if it was 2 or 1, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
there were 5 planned. I think they put in 3, and the story itself is one of um, reaching back and touching your memories for one final time before you have to let it go. And I remember in the book he says October is the month to go if you can get away, if you can tear yourself away from the car dealerships and the factories of the big towns. October and November are the times to go.
The water starts flowing.
Right. When you have the color change of the trees and the seasons begin to move into fall and winter. And that's always been my favorite time to be down there too. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. Leaves changing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love the cold. I like it when it snows, even if I get that. We've had a couple seasons so far since I've been down there that we've had snow, and it's really nice.
I'd like to get down there sometime when it
Yeah.
snowed.
Yeah,
I
it's
can
great.
imagine it looks like a completely different landscape.
Yeah, the river starts to ice up a little on the edges and stuff. It's nice.
Now, I know there's a place on your property that I have a personal special connection
Yeah.
to. It's called Hammock Hill.
Yeah,
Is that the most popular campsite on the property?
it's pretty. Yeah, for the primitive, definitely.
Do you have people that request it
Yeah,
specifically?
it's named it. Yeah, we've actually named it after you. I think you were the first one ever camped on it.
I'm honored to be that
nicknamed
person.
it. You
Some
were
of you-
certifying, weren't you?
Yeah,
Or
some of you that listen and follow may remember this story from years ago. When I got certified as a scuba diver back in 2016, I borrowed a motorcycle and drove to Glenrose.
when we first met, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to get my scuba certification. I had nothing with me. I had on a pair of shorts, a pair of sandals, a t-shirt, and a Crown Royal bandana, and that was all I had with me that day. And a hammock. I had a hammock in my
Yeah.
backpack. But I remember I drove down to Glenrose to get certified as a diver, and I took nothing with me, and I had nothing, on the bike with me. And I remember Brian's campground had just gone in and had just opened up, become functional. And I stopped there, and I don't remember how much I paid, $10 or $15 to put a hammock up for the
Yeah.
night. And I
I
didn't
think it's
have
$10.
any camping gear. I didn't have no tent, no fire making materials, no food, no cooler, no beer, no nothing. All I needed was a place to stay. And so I went down there and I did my scuba
I couldn't believe it. It was
certification,
nothing
and
but sand and briars
yeah,
and
that's
trees.
that's all that was there, and a
I
picnic
just
table.
knows it still.
And that picnic table's still there.
Yeah.
We sat on it a couple of weeks
Yeah.
ago and
Yeah.
reminisced about the old days.
Right.
But I got up the next morning and got on the bike, went down there and did my certification, and ever since then,
It's been nicknamed Hammock Hill.
Hammock Hill.
Yeah.
And I've still got pictures that I took from the hammock
Yeah.
as I was waited for nightfall and went to sleep. I think
You need to send that over.
I
I'll
will.
post it,
I
yeah.
certainly will. I remember I had trouble sleeping that night because I was so excited.
Getting
Getting certified. So I got up and I rode into town on the motorcycle, and I went to some little bar that was on the right, and I sat down and had, 3 or 4 shots of whiskey just to calm my nerves, just to try and relax a little bit. And I drove back, after I was done, and boy, I got a bunch of funny looks in that bar.
Yeah.
For showing up in Teva sandals and swimming trunks on a motorcycle.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that in Tarleton where you're studying? Were they certifying you out of Tarleton? Or was that
I had only just recently I had decided to become a scuba diver, and I didn't have any money. I didn't have any prospects. I was working as a mobile mechanic at the time, but I remember I didn't have any money to speak of.
Yeah.
And I had found somebody online who was willing to trade scuba diving certification for plumbing services. At the time, I was, kind of working part-time, moonlighting as a plumber's helper, so to speak.
All right.
But I showed up and I knew what they needed done, and I was able to coordinate what they needed done. And they were kind enough to trade me scuba diving certification as a barter for that.
I see.
And so I showed up.
That's
I
great.
don't know if I necessarily believed that I was actually going to become a diver, but they made it happen, and I made it happen, and that's how I became what I am today and what I do today. And I absolutely adore it. I don't want any other job. I don't want to do any other job.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly content being a search and recovery diver.
That's great.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it's been life changing, really.
Yeah. And Hammock Hill got its name.
Yeah.
You know,
Hammock Hill
'cause
got
it's
its name.
still it's
And
a-
I still have the same hammock I used that weekend too.
Yeah.
So how do you approach environmental sustainability and conservation on your campground? How do you approach how do you do it the right way?
Well, I provide trash I think is a big sign that, you know, with what we do, we want to make sure that we take care of the environment. So
Because we are borrowing it from our future
Correct.
generations, aren't we?
we want to
we
leave
are-
it better.
We
than
are
found it.
we are stewards of it. We're
Right.
here to take care of it. We don't own shit, do we?
Right.
We're borrowing it.
Right. That's
because
right.
we will pass on and it will pass to the next person.
That's right. And I want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
That's
you know?
right.
And-
We
and
all
so
do. Yes.
I provide like a mesh bag and stuff for all the loose items that
Mhm.
you may take with you and stuff, trash, anything like that. I've had people, I like to offer a free day pass if you bring it back full.
Right on.
I've had people bring it back with not just their stuff, but river stuff. We pull tire. We try not to pass anything up. If the people don't mind grabbing it, I'd like them to bring it back with them.
That's
you
awesome.
know,
Do you
um,
recycle?
Yeah. Well, I try metals, and I separate the metals from the trash. But
That's
you know,
good.
yeah,
I can only imagine the number of cans that pass through your property every
Yeah.
summer.
yeah. I can't say I get every can. That's for sure.
Well, no,
Yeah.
of course you don't get every can,
But
but
we try to
man,
to
if you
recycle
could-
what we can.
if it were possible for you to collect every single can and turn that into aluminum ingots.
Yeah, I don't know what they
forge
get
it
for a
yourself,
can
melt
nowadays.
it down, pour it out, make your
Yeah,
own
for
aluminum
one.
ingots and sell them. At the end of the year, you could probably buy a whole new kayak fleet every year
Yeah, I don't
just
know.
from cans.
Or make a few canoes.
Yeah.
You know.
Not sure I'd want to get in a metal boat, but
Yeah.
I could see the allure behind it.
Yeah.
Even as a display thing, you could make an aluminum canoe and say, hey, look,
Yeah.
this is from your trash to my treasure.
Yeah, recycle, upcycle.
How do you engage with the local community? And what other ways do you support your local area?
I try to donate when I can. I help out much as I can, stuff like that.
I can only imagine how well
lot.
Donating a camping trip at your property might do at a silent auction.
Yeah, we do that quite a bit. Whenever we can, find a place to do it at, we're
Right on,
more
that's
than
cool.
welcome to provide for that.
What types of camping experiences do you cater to, and how have they evolved over time?
Well, we started out with just a few canoes, so we weren't able to do like large groups and stuff. But now we've accumulated a few, and we can do large groups, different time durations depending on what the water flow is.
How many different shuttles do you run?
We've got 3, 5 mile, 15 and a 30 upstream where you get out with us, and then an 8, a 15 and a 45 where we bring you back.
Do you have river guides?
We can provide guides. We're capable of doing it. We haven't done it very much. We don't get that request too much. Most are able to do it all, even beginners on their own.
Do you have
the water's not too bad.
Do you have fishing guides that come down and will take groups of people out and say, hey, this is where we can go. I'll show you how to catch all these fish. I'll show you, actually I got sidetracked. We're going to have to take a commercial break, but we'll be
Okay.
back just a little while. We'll talk about this some more.
All right.
Let's be honest. Wheelchairs are heavy, bulky, and ugly. If you carry a wheelchair in your car to take care of a loved one, you know how hard it is getting that clunky, old-style wheelchair in and out of your car. Introducing the Feather Chair Wheelchair. At 13 pounds, it's the world's lightest wheelchair. It folds in seconds and fits neatly in your trunk, backseat, or closet, so you can take it everywhere. And it's only available right here. Order yours today and get a free wheelchair case, a $50 value, yours free. The Feather Chair. The world's lightest wheelchair is just $4.99 with easy payments as low as $16 a month. Sorry, no Medicare or insurance accepted. So call right now to order yours.
800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. 800-823-5826. That's 800-823-5826.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Joco Community Radio. Listen live at jococommunityradio.com.
Born to be wild.
Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. TuneInJoco.com is a place to find all the ways to listen and watch, and the station app is also available for free on Apple and Android devices. Simply search your store. Check out our lineup and more at JocoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your local Texas sales rep at 844-839-4245. That's 844-839-4245. And be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. Brian, welcome back.
Thank you.
We had to pay some bills there for a moment.
Right
So
on.
do me a favor. Tell me about what some of the best camping spots are along the Brazos River and what makes them special.
Well, there's a couple.
My favorite spots are the ones that are shaded all day long.
Yeah.
You don't have
Hammock
to sit.
Hill.
Hammock Hill is perfect because it's high ground too.
Yeah.
So when it does rain, your area doesn't get completely
Get wet.
muddy and miserable.
Yeah.
You're on high ground. So
Right.
tell me about what makes a special camping spot for your campers.
Well, there's not just our place, but there's also along the river. You can camp out along the river as long as there's under 4,000 cubic feet a second. There's plenty of sandbars along
That's
the way.
under 4,000 cubic feet per second.
Yeah.
So you can get on the island, you can build a fire there,
Yeah.
and that's okay on your. and
There's
that's-
sandbars all the way down.
right. That's actually
one side.
public property, isn't it?
That's correct.
Anywhere from bank to bank.
Yeah.
And you can hunt too.
You can.
That's huntable,
Yeah.
legal property to be on.
From what I understand, you can. Yes.
Yeah.
It's state owned. Bro.
I've always
So-
wanted to camp on the island out there in the middle.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to put up a tent there, but I can imagine sleeping on rocks is not that comfortable.
Yeah. Well, there's some sand and gravel. I guess you got to make it. You could push them around and stuff. There's a lot of sand on the bottoms.
There's
down
no
there
fire
around it.
rings over there, though, is there?
Yeah. No.
No picnic tables.
You can definitely put a rock ring
Right.
out though.
I meant the little metal ones you have on your property.
Yeah. Right. We don't
I
let
like
them go
those.
off the property. Yeah. We try to keep-
Rightfully so. You'll never see them again.
Yeah. Right.
So can you share some tips for my listeners on how to plan a successful riverfront camping trip on the Brazos River? What do you look for? What do you bring? What do you want?
Oh, however you want to glamp it. If you want to bring it, bring it.
That's a relatively new term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Glamping.
Yeah, you can if you can fit it in a canoe and don't mind paddling it,
Right.
bring it on.
Tell me about
know.
some of the glamping that you've seen. Have you ever seen some just overly extravagant homemade camping rigs, like little tiny house on a trailer? What have you seen?
Yeah, no, not really. Just a lot of accessories, or they're really pegged out. You got the stove and all that. They kind of overdo it a little bit.
What is the most overdone camping accessory you've ever seen? Like, what's the craziest,
Um,
wildest, most
wow.
pointless, ostentatious?
Probably a stove and bottles, for the stove.
Now I like my griddle. Don't make that.
Well, but you can do a
Aw.
grate, and it's a lot, natural wood. But
Right.
I don't know. It's just, to me, it seems like a lot of extra stuff,
Well,
But
in my experience,
if you
with
like it, bring it.
camping, one of the things when you show up, the biggest disappointment in the world for me was to show up and find out you're under a burn ban, or
Oh yeah,
they don't provide
Yeah.
fire rings or ability to build a fire on the property at all.
right.
So one of the things that I've always found handy to have in my camp rig, well, not always something I use every time, is my Blackstone griddle.
Okay.
It's absolutely indispensable.
It's
Cook
a gas.
anything on it.
Gas. Yeah. You
Yeah,
can
propane griddle.
You can use it. Yeah. I think you can do charcoal too, as long as it's in a containment.
And yeah,
grate.
contained.
With a grate.
Right.
You can actually do that with a burn ban, I think. But yeah, I think stove was probably the craziest thing, though. I don't know.
In my older
when you
age,
go out,
I remember as a kid when I was camping, the tent and the sleeping bag was the way to do it.
yeah,
But now in my 40s, I find that when you have something to sleep inside of, even if it's just a small trailer with an enclosure built on top where you have some electricity, air conditioning,
yeah,
I don't want to do that anymore. I understand it, and I would love to go camping again, just have the tent and the wind to
Yeah.
keep me company. But man, I'm very fond of my air conditioning. In the middle
Yeah.
of summer when it's 115 degrees outside,
yeah.
I don't want to go camping.
Right, I understand.
I don't want to.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be miserable.
Right.
And that's the thing is, depending on the situation, you want to be comfortable.
Mhm.
I don't see why you couldn't bring a generator and air conditioner. I guess
Well, I have an ambulance that
And
I
it-
like to camp out of.
I see that.
It's
Yeah,
an old retired ambulance, and it's filled to the brim from front to back. It's filled with scuba tanks, extra scuba gear, redundant gear, dry suit, wetsuit, extra boots, extra masks,
Yeah.
extra snorkels, of course, extra air tanks. But I also have
your stuff.
my camping gear. So
Yeah.
there's
So-
fire making materials in the ambulance. There's a torch. There's 2 or 3
Right.
lanterns. I know there's a Dutch oven. There's pots and pans for cooking. There's ammunition. There's a weapon or 2 or 10.
maybe.
Of course, you have fishing piers, pull spear. My basics. My
Yeah.
basic kit is not just something I can throw in the bed of the truck. This is a whole damn truck that's
Yeah.
built around sleeping outside. And
Yeah.
if I want to, I can put up the tent or the hammock, but I can also throw a mattress inside and get inside and go to sleep.
Right.
So that's been my little personal home away from home. I've spent weeks in Colorado in it. It's a nice place to have.
Right. Yeah, it's good. It's good to have the comforts at home sometimes, depending on the situation.
Right.
If you're packing in and going a long ways, you might want to go a little lighter, but
Are there any specific fishing tips or popular fishing spots in your area for camping or fishing enthusiasts that you're very fond of? You were telling me earlier about the Texas fly fishing groups that come down. Tell me something about
yeah,
that.
there's a lot of fly fishing groups that come in and
What
are
species
really
do they target specifically?
all actually they're I mean
Well,
they're interested in catching different ones at different way, but I noticed that they're
I find it funny to think about catching a 6-foot gar on a fly rod. But
yeah,
I'm
but
sure
they're right. They've caught them. There's been a lot of record catching bat. They've caught a lot of bass, record bass. The people that have come out there.
do you find
there's
that
2
fly
areas.
fishing targets larger bass than say a rod and a bait caster? Or
No, the largest one so far, I think it was 12 pounds.
12
Was
pounds.
was caught in our upper 5 mile section, and it was real. I believe it was a reel.
No kidding.
Yeah, on a reel.
That's pretty good.
but-
Any idea what he was catching it on?
No, I'm not sure. I can find out though. I know who he's. We've got pictures of him on our fridge.
Right on. Now I know the Brazos River has a high salinity because it's filtered through limestone, right?
Yeah.
Y'all have
Same.
striper, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
And a lot of hybrid too.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Yeah.
think that the only place to find striper in Texas is on Texoma, and while that is true, it's not the only place.
No.
The Brazos River, I know you can find them in Granbury. You can
Yes.
find them in Whitney.
Yeah.
As far as Eagle Mountain Lake or Benbrook or Bridgeport, I mean, I'm sure there might be some nice hybrids, but you're not going to find striper.
Yeah, they've been caught half an arm length, elbow to fingertip. They've been caught that big off our bank right there.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And pound for pound, striper are where it's at. If you want the fight, striper is where it's
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. It's a good fish.
It's a very good fish.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons. Not only the
Yeah.
fight, but the feed also.
Yeah,
It
but they
tastes
catch
really good.
carp. You can catch carp, 3-4 foot gar out there. They've been caught. There's a guy that lives on our campground that goes down and fishes a bunch, and he's caught some pretty big guys.
Right on.
Yeah.
Are there any guided tours or local events that enhance the camping experience in your area?
We can do that. We have guys that on standby ready to do it. There's a couple guys that keep asking me, is there anybody wanting to go? So we're ready to do it if anyone's willing to.
What do you know about
most can do it on their own. That the trip's short enough, where most beginners can do it
right
without a guide.
now? that's river guiding. That's fish
Yeah.
guiding
Yeah.
collectively as as a group getting on the river with a guide. What do you know about this latest trend I've seen about people that guide camping trips? It seems silly to me, but
Yeah.
I can understand the allure in it. Like
Yeah.
you're taking a family of people who may have never been camping, don't know what they need, don't want to spend the money on all the gear.
No.
Camp guiding.
Yeah. It's
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it or had any requests, but I've had people talk about it. You
Mhm.
know, I've had people ask if we like rent equipment and stuff like that. But so I think the
That's
need
an
might be out
interesting-
there. We can adapt and make that happen if it's
What
we start
if-
getting asked.
What if we started doing something like that?
We could.
We could sell the whole experience as, all you have to bring is yourself.
Yeah.
Take only pictures, leave only footprints and memories.
Yeah. Provide all the equipment, have
Yeah.
it set up, have someone go ahead of the group,
And all you have to
set up
do
the
is show
tents
up and enjoy it.
Right. You bet.
That
It's
could be a
totally
lot of
doable.
fun.
It's totally doable. We have tents and stuff that we could provide that easily.
And you could use that as a teaching experience for your group too, for the children that may have never been exposed to how to build a fire or how to
Right.
cook on the river or how to spot the North Star
Yeah.
or all these
Right.
things that maybe for your generation and my generation were common knowledge as children. We didn't go to my brothers and I were all in Boy Scouts for a short time, but
Yeah.
the things that we were learning in Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts were the stuff that my dad just taught us naturally because that's what dads taught their kids.
Right.
So, and a friend of mine mentioned that it was an all-American upbringing that I had, and I never knew what she meant until recently when I see the millennials and generations otherwise that, their comfort zone is their bedroom or their phone or their video games or
Yeah.
wherever mom and dad are, Velcro kids that don't get away from mom and dad's sight very often, or, the kids that are afraid to be outside after dark. And I get that to a degree now because you have human trafficking, which is so much more of a big deal than it was when we were kids, or maybe it's the same
Yeah.
big deal, but it's more discussed and in the open now.
Yeah.
Um,
Crazy.
when I was a kid, my life was an adventure because it was done outdoors.
Yeah.
We got up at 9 o'clock in the morning, got on our bicycles, and we left to go do stuff with our friends. And they didn't want us back in the house for
Right.
the whole day. And
Yeah.
one of my girlfriend's kids asked me the other day what it was like growing up when I was a kid, and I took away her phone and gave her a popsicle and said, "Now go outside and stay there."
Yeah.
That's what it was
See
like.
it dark. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was how you found out where everyone was at. All the bicycles
Right.
in the front yard.
Yeah.
You couldn't
exactly.
call up and text or,
Or it was at the local pool, the watering
Yeah.
hole, or it
Yeah.
was at the local park.
or
And I
you
don't-
knew where to meet. Yeah.
Yeah, and the park where we went when we were kids, the one that had the local pool, it also had trails, and there was bamboo, and there was blackberry bushes, and there was crawdads in the creek, and
Yeah.
that's where I learned
Frogs.
about peep frogs. Yeah,
Yeah.
peep frogs are
Yeah.
little frogs. You never see them. All
Right.
you do is you hear them, and then you see a splash in the water because
Yeah.
they peep when they jump, and then they hit the river.
Yeah.
We used to catch
That's great.
crawdads in a 5-gallon bucket with a net.
Yeah.
We didn't have a fish tank at home when we were kids. We had a crawdad tank at home because we used them for bait.
Obviously.
And I remember one of them escaped. It was a big white one,
Yeah.
and it had white eyes. And the biggest one in the tank was probably, I don't know, 7-8 inches long. But it made it all the way, and it was blind. It made it all the way from one end of our house clear to the other end of our house, and wound up rustling through my mother's book pile.
Are
One
you
morning,
kidding?
she woke up and she looked over and saw that thing and lost it.
Wow.
My dad sat up out of bed like lightning struck him, and that was it for our crawdads. We weren't allowed to have crawdads anymore.
That was it.
But I remember, kids these days, that's what this show is for, is to encourage people to realize that there's adventure just outside your front door.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, this big involved week-long camping trip down the Devil's River with Shane Davies of River Run Guide Service. It doesn't have
Right.
to be something extravagant like that.
Right.
It can be get in your car, take a half-hour, 45-minute trip, and find
Yeah.
this place down on the river called Brazos Outdoor Center, and just spend the day outside
Yeah.
looking at dinosaur tracks.
That's
and
why I did
finding
it. It was close.
arrowheads and
Yeah. That's why I did it. It was close to the Metroplex. I figured it, when we would go, we'd
literally
go down to
right
New
off the
Brownsville.
main road
Yeah. We'd have to go down to New Brownsville or somewhere to tube. So
to do anything fun.
so
And the Canal River is a long way. It's a great trip, and it's a wonderful
sure.
weekend getaway.
Beautiful.
But try doing it in one day.
Yeah.
At the end of a river trip, I don't want to get in the car and drive 4 or 5 hours home.
Right. Bring a change of clothes. We got showers and restrooms.
That's right.
You know?
I wanted to ask you about how you pick the different amenities that your campground offers. Obviously, you have indoor showers, you have indoor bathroom, you have
Outdoor showers as well.
Yeah, outdoor showers. What other kind of amenities does your campground offer?
We have a dump station.
Do you sell firewood?
We do sell firewood. We have a general store that sells pretty much just about anything. We're just getting into fly rods now, and we've got a fly maker making flies for us.
Cool.
We've got a Brazos Blue it's almost guaranteed to hit a bass.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's been.
Do you teach fly fishing lessons?
No, but we're gonna start. And we have a guy that we're talking with now. That does our flies. That we're gonna start doing tie flies.
That's
fly
awesome.
tying seminars and stuff like that. So there'll be some big things coming, I think.
I'm hooked.
Yeah, yeah, right on.
But I'm worried you might just be stringing me along.
Easy.
But hey, I'm on hook, line, and sinker, man. It sounds like a wonderful experience that you're going to be offering soon. You're going to be using this entire place as a learning experience for these kids that may otherwise never be exposed to this sort of thing, and that's a big deal.
It is.
It's a big deal.
I think it's something that's been lost. There, too many iPads and stuff like that.
That's
Let's
right.
get them out and hook a fish.
Put the electronics down.
Yeah, get outside. There's a lot of things to do. There's all kinds of stuff to do out there.
I'm 100% on board with it. I love what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks.
And I'm honored that you came in tonight to talk about this, and I'd love to have you on more.
Oh yeah,
we could build an entire segment for this radio show about Brian Bayne and the Brazos Outdoor Center.
Come on.
And I'm serious.
Well,
I'm serious.
I enjoy it. I like doing what I'm doing. It's good fun. Good meeting people, seeing the enjoyment they get out of doing it.
What safety precautions should campers take when camping on or near the Brazos River, Brian? Like in your experience on your property, what have been the main things that come up that need to be prepared for outside of obviously snake bites and life jackets?
Well, heat is another big thing.
Yeah.
Because the time frame you could be out depending on what the water flow is and where you put in and take out is you can get yourself in a little trouble if you're not
sunlight
careful.
in the river bed can be brutal.
Yeah.
Because it's reflecting not only off the rocks, but off the water too.
More. Yeah.
And if you don't take that into consideration, you may find yourself in a situation where heat stroke could, very well alter your plans or even take your life if you're not careful.
Plenty of beverage, stuff like that. You just need to be prepared.
Stay hydrated, stay cool.
Yeah. Drink water
covered.
Before, before you go, good day
Before,
or two
during,
before
and
you
after.
go. Yeah. A couple days before, start drinking water.
Aloe,
be ready.
sunblock.
Yeah. Sunblock. That's a big thing. But other than that, you just want to make sure you're up for the duration. It's a lot of private land and stuff, so you want to make sure you can get to the takeout.
Right.
It's usually we're pretty good about judging the time at the flow rate. So if you want to be on the water a certain length of time, we can adjust the put in or take out to accommodate that.
Right
We've
on.
done a lot of Boy Scouts and stuff, overnight trips, and stuff like that. So
I remember when I was a kid, when we would go down to the river, my dad would spend, a good hour watching the Weather Channel before finalizing our plans to put our gear in the truck and head on down there.
Yeah.
And I remember on several different occasions, we didn't have the specialized weather predictability that we have now, where we can pull this device up and look at the weather for the next few days.
yeah.
You got one chance to look at it before you left town, and unless you had a weather radio, that was what you went on.
Yeah. A lot of times you walked out and looked around and thought, well, it looks okay.
I remember my dad, when we would get down there and we'd set up camp, we'd go through all the motions of, my family would go through all the motions of setting up the campsite, because as soon as we got there, I was gone.
Yeah.
I hated setting up tents. I hated setting up camp. I didn't want to get stuck on KP.
Mm.
So as soon as we got there, as soon as everybody was busy doing something, I was gone. I'd take off to the river and stay gone for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And then I come back and the campsite set up, tent set up, all the BS work that I hated doing.
Yeah.
Which I now have, let's say I've broken down and accepted as, you have to do your part, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I just hated freaking doing it when I was a kid. But I remember Dad, after dinner was done and the s'mores were finished and the fire was turning into coals and the all the good fire sticks have been exhausted and we've played in the fire all we wanted to. And
Mhm.
Dad would walk off away from the fire. He'd have his hands behind his back and he would stare at the sky. And I always wondered what he was doing. Is he meditating? Is he thinking about the mistakes he made that led him to where he is now? Or
Enjoying the
no,
view.
he was just watching the sky to see
Yeah.
if he could see the stars.
Right.
If the clouds came in and the stars went away, it was time to maybe put some of the food away in the truck, maybe get your rain fly out, etc.
Right.
Because we weren't going to pack up and go home.
Yeah.
Even though I remember several trips where it just came such a deluge of rain that the only option at that point then, lest we get stuck on the property, was to pack the shit up and go.
Yeah.
But I remember those nights when Dad would walk off and stare at the sky. And I find myself doing that now when I find myself outdoors overnight. And it was, I find myself doing a lot of things that my dad did.
Yeah.
Back then.
It just taking notice and soaking it up, enjoying the outdoors. Yeah.
And I remember he kept a couple of 10-penny nails in the back of the truck. I never knew why, but I remember recently trudging around on a piece of property where we used to camp, and those 10-penny nails are still in that tree.
That's
right? Where he hung the lantern, and that's where we hung the trash bag, and that's where that's how we marked our campsite to know which one to come back to next time we were there. Was those 10-penny nails. I've got a picture of one in the tree.
Is that right?
My dad put that nail there back when this was
just
a public place where people could go and enjoy themselves with their family, and now it's been sold to a gravel company, and you can only get there by putting in at your place and headed upriver. It's about a 3-mile trip, but it's enjoyable and it's well worth it every day.
Yeah.
I'll have to take you up there sometime. I was telling you earlier that I know some special places along that river. This beach in particular, we need to hit it with our metal detectors because I guarantee you there's 50 years of jewelry there.
Oh, really?
I don't think anybody's ever hit it before.
Well, let's check it out. Yeah,
we should. We definitely should.
Yeah, get the white out.
Let's plan that.
White's metal detector.
Yeah, I have a Garrett Sea Hunter Mark II that I use both on land and underwater.
And bring the carrot.
Definitely. When spring comes around, let's plan that, Brian. Right. You and me.
We can do that.
We'll take a boat upriver.
Yeah. We'll get back and post what we did.
I think it sounds like a wonderful idea.
It's great getting out.
How does the Brazos River contribute to overall camping atmosphere, and what makes it a special destination for outdoor enthusiasts? Beyond the Native American history and the dinosaur tracks and like I said, the arrowheads that you can find in, on, and around the property, what about the Brazos River makes it such a special camping atmosphere for your people, for your customers?
Well, I don't know. I think the location probably is the most thing. It's close. They can get to and from in a day.
Right. It doesn't require 4-wheel drive to get to your property.
Right. No. You get a I don't know. It's just nice. The scenery's good, and stuff. The bridge gives a little noise to us. We've gotten a few issues with the noise of the bridge. But
what are you gonna do?
You're by the bridge. You should know. Other than that, it's great. We've had a lot of neat things.
Prayers going up for whoever
right on
is involved with that.
Right. But yeah, it's good fun. There's a lot of neat things about it.
Do you have a lot of owls on your property at night?
We do. Well, I hear an owl at night every once in a while. It hoos.
One of my favorite jokes is to say that I know somebody who's obsessed with owls and try to get the other person to say who. And then I just leave it alone, let it go.
But,
it's somebody we both know.
Yeah.
Really?
Who? That's funny. But yeah, it's a great place. I really like it there.
How many people have you taught to skip rocks?
Maybe half a dozen.
Just that's it?
Yeah, kids. Yeah. Kids. Just I see them down there throwing. I'll get down there and throw with them. I say, look at that one. Right there, throw that one. Put it on the finger like that.
There's a story I tell about a rock.
Yeah.
Little girl's playing around in the river. She's skipping rocks, and she picks one up and says, look, the perfect rock. And she throws it, skips it across the river, and of course it goes 7, 8, skips and sinks. 10,000 years later, that was still that rock's favorite day because it was perfect.
Yeah. Wow. Nice.
Well, it's like I always say, when you go down to the river, take only pictures, take an arrowhead, leave only footprints, leave only memories.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal with the Boy Scouts too. It was always leave no trace.
Right.
Come in the way you go out the way you came in. Leave no evidence that you were ever
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Take
leave it the
nothing,
way you
leave
found it.
nothing. Yeah.
Right.
Leave no trash. Leave no leave no proof that your presence was ever there.
Right.
And that includes we would bury our fires. We would of course take out everything that we came in with
Right.
that we didn't plant,
Yeah.
obviously.
Right.
And that is a lost art today.
Yeah. Yeah. We find some trash every once in a while. We'll find a little bit here and there. People to leave it. It's mainly on our property, you know, but
Right.
but I make sure the whole river's clean. You know, we try to take care of it.
And that's
best
our
we can.
job. Because again,
Yeah.
we're not, none of us own anything here. None of
Right.
us own land.
Right.
We're borrowing it from our children and from our grandchildren, from our grandchildren's grandchildren.
Yeah.
Because it will pass from us to them. No matter what you do, you can't stop it.
Yeah, we help Friends of the Brazos too with their shuttling and cleanup.
Tell me about
our
Friends of the
section of the
Brazos.
Well, they're a group that helps keep the river clean. And
I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, it's an organization. They come in once a year and they'll do sections of the river and get volunteers to clean up.
I'd like to get involved with that with Blue Diver.
Yeah, we donate the equipment and shuttle them to their pickups and takeouts, and then haul their trash. We got a dumpster. Somerville County parks a dump truck in front of our place that we put all the tires and some of the trash in.
How many
that we
times a year
recover out of
do
there.
they do a river cleanup?
We do that with them right now once a year through our sections.
Cool. Right on.
Above and below us. You know,
You should let me know when the next one happens, and I'll see if I can get my divers on board with it too. We'll come down and give you a hand.
Okay. Yeah. Usually it's maybe not that deep, but you know,
it doesn't have to be. It's our presence and our effort
you bet.
that would make.
We'd love to have that. We'd love to have you. Yeah.
We'd love to be a part of it. Brian,
it's getting bigger every year.
Thank you for coming in tonight, and thank you for talking about your place. I'd love to have you back on sometime soon.
Sure.
To talk about the Brazos River and camping and
Yeah,
outdoor adventure in general. As far as as far as outdoor stuff is concerned, you're basically an expert. You live the life.
Well,
you do.
Yeah, I do. I enjoy it.
And a lot of us are jealous of you for it.
Stuff. It's a lot of work, but we love it.
Oh, it can't be that bad. But again, thanks for coming in. Thanks for being on the show. And we're looking forward to doing this with you again sometime.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Texas Wild, Adventures from the Water to the Campfire, and we will see you next week.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County, JOCO Community Radio.
If you're trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I